It's so much fun to welcome back Leanne Latuda, the conductor and artistic director of the St. Louis Women's Chorale. And you have something wonderful coming up, the Suffrage Cantata. Hello, Leanne.
Hi, Kathy. Great to be back. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm excited about this cantata, and I've learned just a little bit about it. We're all going to learn from you as you tell us about this. The Suffrage Cantata, written by Andrea Ramsey.
Yes, Andrea Ramsey. As you know, the St. Louis Women's Chorale, we have long had as part of our mission to give women voice, women composers and poets. And so I think the fact that this extended work was written by a woman composer brought it into my universe. And I heard about this, I think, 3 years ago and thought, oh, I have to do this piece. Andrea wrote this piece in anticipation of the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. I think we were on a Zoom call and she was talking about it. And so this has kind of been on the back burner for me for 3 years. So it's finally coming to fruition. The Suffrage Cantata sounds a lot like suffering, and it sounds, it sounds negative or bad. But no, this is really a powerful, wonderful work. It's not sad or dour, but it brings the movement to life. And I think the first convention for women's rights was in 1848, something like that. And the 19th Amendment did not pass until 1920s. So it only took 72 years, Kathy. Really.
The blink of an eye.
Exactly.
Isn't that interesting? It did take that long, and now we look at that and go, why? But if we look at it through the lens of what was going on at that time, I think this is something that we sometimes lose sight of. These things have to be framed within the aesthetics of the time.
Right. And you remember the Civil War was what, 1861 to 65, right in there? So the women's right movement, or the right to vote movement, started in 48 before the Civil War. And the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery didn't pass until 1865. And so that was one of the things that Andrea Ramsey talked about when she wrote this, is that I think she expected to write about these wonderful women suffragists. And they were wonderful, but she also learned that they were all deeply flawed because they were racist and classist. So Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who was one of the first people to bring about the Seneca Falls Convention, the first women's rights convention, she was racist and classist. And Alice Paul, who organized the first national suffrage march, she did not want Black women marching alongside white women. She wanted them to be at the back of the parade. And so that's when Ida B. Wells very famously said, well, I'm not going to do that. And she kind of hid along the parade route. Ida B. Wells was from Illinois. And when the Illinois delegation walked by, Ida B. went right out and stepped up next to her white suffragist sisters and walked alongside them. But the women, the women at the time, though, were so afraid that if they got support from Black women, that other white women wouldn't support the suffrage movement. And so it was a really tense, difficult time. And so even though we have had the right to vote for 100 years, there are so many racial issues that are still prevalent today and relevant today. And so that is also what drew me to this piece, is that it's a 103-year anniversary, but the racial issues I think we're still dealing with today. So in some ways, it's very timely. Very timely.
It is very timely with everything that's going on in the world right now. There is certainly disturbance going on. So this is a way for people to maybe come back to square one and say, now, wait a minute, what do we have here? What do we have that we should appreciate in being able to vote?
Yeah, exactly. And the League of Women Voters is going to set up a table out in our lobby, and the League of Women Voters just tries to get all people registered to vote. And then the Missouri Women's Caucus will also be there. They are a nonpartisan group just trying to get women into office, women who are running for office. They're nonpartisan. But it reminds me of one of my favorite lines from the work, from Suffrage Cantata, and it goes something like, when the people try to tell us we belong in the House, we say, yes, the House and the Senate. and, We're still underrepresented in both places. I think in the House of Representatives, we have about 29% are women, and in the Senate, it's something like 25%. So we have made tremendous strides, but we still have a long ways to go. And so again, another reason to perform this work.
Raise that awareness. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because even though we're not taking one side or another and no causes per se, as you said, there's no cause affiliation, yet it is something that we as Americans, we are so very blessed in this country to be able to vote. We should be part of that process. Very timely, this cantata.
I said to the chorale, I will never, ever take for granted what these women did for me. I will never take that for granted again. And so often we don't vote because it's inconvenient or it takes time out of our schedule. No, we can't take that for granted. Your voice matters. And women fought very hard for that right. And also as part of the chorale, we are a multi-generational community chorus. So our youngest is maybe 18. Our oldest is somewhere in the neighborhood of 80. We have about 35 members, and we're the ensemble in residence at Maryville University, but we would love to have more representation of younger women. So we decided to expand our forces for this, and we invited Koryezu, their concert choir, which is a junior senior choir. There's about 35 women in that choir. That is directed by Addie Aiken. So those young women will be joining us on stage. And then Aurelia Treble Chorus from Webster University, directed by Stuart Chapman Hill. Those young women will be joining us. I believe they have 31 singers. So in total, we will have 102 women on stage, very much a multi-generational chorus from high school all the way up to their grandma's age, singing together.
That's fabulous. The 72-year span. See, it's reflected in the chorus too.
Yes, that's a beautiful connection.
Now, this is going to be accompanied by the Rosewood
String Quartet and 2 percussion players. So that's really exciting. Our piano player, Ruth Stith, will be on stage with us, as well as the Rosewood String Quartet and 2 percussionists. Beautiful accompaniment. In addition to the fact that we will have a narrator and a soloist, and our narrator is Benita Cornute. So she was on Fox 2 News. She was a reporter for Fox for over 35 years. I think a lot of your listeners may know of her. And then our soprano soloist is Brittany Graham, and she graduated with her master's degree in vocal performance from Webster University, I believe back in 2018. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited to welcome Brittany and Benita to the stage. In addition to Benita and Brittany, then Andrea Ramsey, the composer, will also be in the audience. She lives in Kansas City, and she'll be driving over for our performance. And she's going to talk with the audience right before the performance and give a little backstory and tell them what prompted her to write this piece and some of the things that she went through. I think that'll be interesting for the audience. I also just love when we have a live composer, to have them in the room, I think it's just fabulous.
I agree with you. They bring that personal perspective. Sometimes just seeing them and listening to them, you get it intuitively.
Exactly. And then she can also tell the audience, some things to listen for and what she was trying to capture musically with the different movements, because this work is about 40 minutes long and there's 5 different movements. And the movements are all brought to life by video projections. So we will have pictures of the suffragists and the parades and all sorts of things projected while we're singing. So it really makes for an exciting performance.
And thoroughly engaging, I would assume. This is going to be on Friday, November 10th at 7:30 p.m. at the Community Music School Auditorium of Webster University, 535 Garden Avenue, right at Webster. More information at STLWC, which is a St. Louis Women's Chorale.org. You had mentioned that Andrea Ramsey will be talking with the audience. Is that going to be before that 7:30?
So actually, it'll be right in the middle. Each one of the choruses, Aurelia and Koryezu and St. Louis Women's Chorale, each chorus will perform 2 pieces by themselves. Nice. So that you can hear each choir separately. So there will be maybe 20 minutes of music, And then Andrea will come forward and introduce the Suffrage Cantata and talk with the audience a little bit, and then we'll perform it. So you don't have to worry about getting there early to try to hear her. If you're in the audience, you'll get to hear her. And then after the concert, we'll have just a very simple champagne toast reception where people can meet her and meet the soloist, meet the narrator, meet the performers. So I think it'll make for a very nice evening.
It sounds like it's going to be a fabulous evening. What a wonderful thing for you to present for St. Louis audiences. I think we learned so much from the past. We cannot destroy it. We need to continue to learn from it.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. And it is the St. Louis regional premiere, so this work has not been performed in this area before. It's always exciting to be able to present works like that and bring something new to St. Louis.
The admission is only $25, and that is for general admission. And then students and seniors get a break at $15. And then there's also going to be a video performance of this. Tell us about that.
We have hired a videographer to capture the entire evening. That video will be available 2 weeks afterward. So if you have family that's living out of town or you just want to share it with someone, that video will be available the 24th of November. The price of that is $25 as well.
Ignite, celebrating people who ignite their passions.
That is the title of our concert season this year. We are in our 29th season, and so Ignite is our whole season. And so we're celebrating people who ignite their passions to create change. So the Suffrage Cantata is our first signature concert. Then we have another one in February called Love Letters. It's the 260th anniversary of the birth of the city of St. Louis. And that actually happened on Valentine's Day. So it's a little love letter to our city. And then our third concert is in April, and it's called Leading Ladies.
Ballerinas, mathematicians, and all sorts of people. That's really
Exactly.
Ignite and Suffrage Cantata by Andrea Ramsey will be the featured piece. Well, Leanne, I want to thank you for your time today. And one more time, St. Louis Women's Chorale, Ignite, the Suffrage Cantata by Andrea Ramsey, Friday, November 10th at 7:30 p.m. at the Community Music School Auditorium at Webster University, 535 Garden Avenue in Webster Groves. And to get your tickets, you can go to STLWC.org or St. Louis Women's Chorale.org. And tickets will be available at the door?
They will be available at the door, yes, but we do recommend buying them in advance. Tickets are selling well, and the 100 people on stage, I think it's going to sell out pretty quickly. So don't wait for the door. And seats are first come, first served. The doors will open at 7 p.m. So getting there a little bit early is probably a good idea as well.
Great advice. Leanne, Magnuson, Latuda, thank you so very much for telling everybody about this fabulous opportunity to learn a little bit of history and maybe appreciate where we are right now.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Kathy. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
And for me too. Thanks, Leanne.